Hi, I'm Arj, in case you didn't know. Normally I don't do this. Usually I try not to comment on things that have already been commented about. Um, but it seems that right now that silence is part of the problem. So, I don't know, I figured I'd make a short video, um, explaining my thought process through all this. Um, this past week has been pretty overwhelming, I think. Um, there's a lot of confusion, uh, a lot of news coverage, especially, and with I'm not going to say really anything that hasn't been said, but the death of George Floyd was just like so wrong, inhumane. There's not really I can't really think of a word that describes it um, more than that. And I mean, I watched this video by Trevor Noah. You should check it out. He did it on everything that's going on right now. And he made some pretty good points. I'd totally check it out. But what I'll say is that the death was horrible, and the protests that are happening right now are just a natural response. Like, you can't expect people just to sit by and do nothing. And a lot of the confusion comes with the fact that there's some rioting, looting, and stuff like that. And what I'll say to that is, first of all, the media does not cover peaceful protests nearly as much as it does rioting and looting, because it doesn't make as much of a good story. And that's, a problem. So what you see is not necessarily what's actually going on, unless you won't really know unless you're there, because only what's reported is the bad, the quote unquote bad. Now, I personally am a nonviolent person, and that's one of my core values. However, from the beginning, I was with all of the protesters. And at first I didn't understand why, but what I've come to the conclusion is that because this is a natural response, you can't expect people to not break some rules when rules have been broken to them. And I feel like a lot of people are just mad at the looting more than they're mad at George Floyd's and Ahmaud Arbery's and Breonna Taylor's and too many people's injustices and deaths. Even though, graffiti, vandalism, looting does not kill anyone, and those can all be replaced. A human life is irreplaceable. So, they peaceful protest, nothing gets done. So they need to, make a statement, and they can't be expected to follow the government's rules when the government doesn't respond. And there's a lot of criticism, all cops aren't bad. There are good cops, but that's not the point, really. And that being said, some cops are good people, for sure, But the fact that they're police is the problem, that they are part of a corrupted system and therefore are corrupt. There's no bias training or anything like that that can prevent things like this. Just keep thinking about like the George Floyd, how he had the knee on his neck, and even after, I'm sure he was still alive when he had stopped moving, yet he kept the knee on the neck. That is like malicious and some like deep-rooted anger, I guess, on the part of the officer. I don't know. And again, with like the looting and stuff, like breaking rules, like I've seen a lot of like, that's how the country was founded, or this country was founded, like the Boston Tea Party is dumped tea in the Boston Harbor. That wasn't legal. It was quote unquote violent, the same way like looting Target is violent. Those things can be replaced. It's just a statement. And sure, there are people that, aren't for the central movement, who are just, I'm sure, that just profit off of it. But those don't represent the whole as a cause. And people will only focus on the bad. And I know there's a lot of, I guess, counter protesting, undercover cops, white people who are, trying to make it seem like the protesters are being violent or are vandalizing or are looting. That's just like stupid. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's a very simple thing to understand, is that George Floyd followed all the rules. He was completely compliant with the officer. He did not fight back. He did not do anything. He just did everything he was supposed to do, and yet he still died. And then they expect people to still follow the rules, even though when the rules are followed, he died. Like, it doesn't make sense. And even when people do follow the rules, they don't like it. Just 2 days ago, I don't like talking about him, but President Trump wanted to do a photo op at the church across the White House, and because he was upset about the coverage of him being protected by his bunker, and then him and his group of all white people marched across to the church while police were tear gassing entirely peaceful protesters at the White House gate. So, like, for the people that say, like, this isn't the right way to do it, peaceful protesting is the way, is it? Like, they were peaceful, they were being peaceful, yet they still got tear gassed. I've seen, footage of like cops, kicking protesters, arresting them when they're peaceful, and I've seen images of like pictures from today that are compared to pictures from 1965, and people are saying like, this is not what MLK would do. Well, MLK got assassinated. By who, it's still like unknown, but he at the end of his life said that at times first of all, that rioting when people are unheard is inevitable, and at times peaceful protesting just won't work. So just feel like that MLK excuse is just a way to use him as a false symbol when this is a completely different era and nothing has changed. People have been protesting for hundreds of years now for some level of equality, and there's been some progress. I mean, but it's just it's not enough. There's not really, I don't know, a right way to do this, to understand what's going on. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts, I guess. If you want to help the cause, there's a lot of different ways. Educate yourself. There's different numbers you can text to sign petitions for change, to ensure that the officers charged in his death get justice. We may post a poll on our Instagram account if you want to check that out, about our way of helping, of collecting and donating money to different bailout funds and stuff like that. So if you want to check that out. But yeah, sorry, this wasn't really a, your typical funny Project Mercury video, but the situation right now isn't that funny. So, yeah, I guess that's it.